Some battles don't test your strength, they test your source. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, have you ever tried to do something you were sure you could handle, only to have it fail completely? That is exactly where the disciples found themselves in Mark chapter 9. Jesus had gone up a mountain with Peter, James, and John, leaving the rest of the guys behind. While Jesus was away, a father brought his son to the disciples. The boy was struggling with a very difficult spirit that made him unable to speak and caused him to have physical seizures. Now, remember, Jesus had already given these men authority to heal people and cast out spirits before. They had seen it work. They probably stepped up with confidence, expecting the spirit to leave immediately. But this time, nothing happened. They prayed, they commanded, they tried everything they knew, but the boy remained exactly the same. A crowd gathered, and the religious leaders started arguing with them. You can imagine how embarrassing and confusing this was for the disciples. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing, and they were likely feeling pretty defeated. It is a moment we can all relate to when our own strength and past successes just aren't enough to solve the problem in front of us. When Jesus finally arrived, he saw the chaos and asked what was going on. The Father explained the situation and admitted that the disciples couldn't help. Jesus then does what only he can do. He commands the spirit to leave, and the boy is instantly healed. Later, when they were finally alone in a house, the disciples asked the big question, why couldn't we drive it out? They weren't just curious, they were likely hurt and confused. Jesus gave them a very direct answer. He told them that this kind of spirit can only come out through prayer and fasting. This wasn't about a magic formula or saying the right words. The problem was that the disciples had started to rely on their own power. Because they had been successful in the past, they forgot that the power didn't belong to them. It belonged to God. They were trying to do God's work without staying connected to the source. They had the authority, but they had lost their active, moment-by-moment dependence on the Father through prayer. The disciples learned a hard but beautiful lesson that day. They learned that spiritual work requires spiritual tools. You can't fight a spiritual battle using just human logic or past experiences. Jesus was showing them that as the challenges get bigger, our prayer lives need to get deeper. Fasting isn't about skipping meals to earn points with God. It's about setting aside our physical needs to focus entirely on our spiritual connection with Him. It's a way of saying, God, I need you more than I need food. The disciples had to learn humility. They had to realize that they were just the vessels, not the power source. This failure was actually a gift because it redirected them back to God. If they had succeeded on their own, they might have become arrogant. Instead, they were reminded that they must always be plugged in. This changed the way they approached ministry from that point forward. They began to understand that faith isn't a one-time thing you have in your pocket. It's a living relationship that you have to nurture every single day. Without that connection, even the most talented person is powerless against the darkness. So, how does this old story apply to us in our modern world? Well, we face spirits too, though they might look different. We face spirits of fear, anxiety, addiction, or bitterness that seem impossible to overcome. We often try to fix these things using our own willpower. We read self-help books, we make New Year's resolutions, or we just try to be better. But just like the disciples, we find that our own strength eventually runs out. The lesson here is that we have to stop trying to fight spiritual battles with physical weapons. When we feel overwhelmed by negativity or spiritual weight, our first move should be to pray. We need to admit, God, I can't do this on my own. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually where our true strength begins. In our modern lives, we are so busy that we often forget to plug into the source. We try to run our families, our jobs, and our schools on an empty battery. Jesus is inviting us to slow down and reconnect. He wants us to realize that the same power He used to heal that boy is available to help us navigate our daily struggles. How do we stay protected from these spiritual influences? The Bible gives us a very clear strategy. In Ephesians, it talks about the armor of God. This isn't literal metal armor, but spiritual habits that protect our hearts and minds. We protect ourselves by filling our minds with the truth of the Bible so that lies can't get in. We protect our hearts by choosing to do what is right, which is called the breastplate of righteousness. But most importantly, we stay protected through a consistent prayer life. Think of prayer like a spiritual shield. When we are in constant communication with God, we are much harder to rattle. We also need to be careful about what we let into our lives. Just like we wash our hands to keep germs away, we need to wash our minds by being careful about what we watch, listen to, and who we spend our time with. Protection isn't about living in fear. It's about living in awareness. When you know you're a child of God and you stay close to Him, you don't have to be afraid of any spirit. You are walking in the shadow of the Almighty, and that is the safest place to be. As we wrap up today, I want you to remember that the story of the disciples' failure didn't end there. They went on to do incredible things for God because they learned to rely on His power instead of their own. You can do the same. If you feel like you've been losing a battle lately, don't get discouraged. Take it as a signal to turn back to God. Start small. Spend 5 minutes in quiet prayer tomorrow morning. Read one chapter of the Gospels. Ask God to fill you with His Spirit and give you the strength you lack. Remember, Jesus has already won the ultimate victory. When He died and rose again, He proved that no spirit and no darkness has the final say. Our job is simply to stay close to the winner. You're not alone in your struggles, and you don't have to be perfect to have God's help. You just have to be willing to ask. So go out this week with your head held high, knowing that the same Jesus who healed the boy in the valley is walking right beside you today. You have the victory through Him. God bless you, and I will see you next time. If this message helped you understand Mark 9 more clearly, type "Victory in the Valley" in the comments.
We love bringing you new content. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons.